Hello and welcome. Today, we're in Australia, 2025, where one uncomfortable truth is reshaping wildlife recovery. If we can't remove critical threats fast enough, feral predators, cane toads, catastrophic fires, rapid warming, then large-scale rewilding and translocation aren't optional. They're essential. After looking at more than 50 programs across deserts, savannas, alpine zones, and islands, a simple pattern stands out. The winners moved early, not after a collapse, not when numbers were in freefall. They acted before the crisis, and that changed everything. Australia's biogeography makes this both harder and more urgent. Over 87% of mammals, 93% of reptiles, and nearly half of all birds are found nowhere else. Isolation created extraordinary endemism and fewer escape routes when threats intensify. There's no easy drift to safer ground. That's why strategic, science-based translocation can be a conservation superpower when you deploy it at the right time and scale. So what separates programs that work from those that struggle? Theme 1. Act before the extinction vortex starts. Think of it as the go big decision rule. Simple triggers that cut through hesitation and the urge to wait for perfect data. You move when anyone turns red. G is for genetic. If effective population size, the number of individuals contributing genes, drops below 50, short-term inbreeding kicks in. Below 500, you lose adaptive genetic variation over time. That's the classic 50-500 rule. And here's the surprise. Even if head counts bounce back later, bottlenecks leave scars that show up in heat waves, droughts, or disease outbreaks. O is for outsized threat, the kind you can map. If an invasive front is likely to arrive in under 3 years, that's a trigger. Cane toads can advance around 60 kilometers a year in northern Australia. And when they hit country with northern quolls, populations often crash by more than 90%. It's tragically predictable, which means preventable if we act before the front arrives. B is for bottlenecked range. When a species is hanging on in a few isolated pockets with no real dispersal pathways, you've got fragmentation that sets up local extinctions. More than 70% of Australia's threatened species are affected by habitat fragmentation. That's the norm, not an edge case. Move early on these triggers and you create living insurance policies. A standout, northern quolls. Ahead of the cane toad wave, teams built an island arc of populations. On the Tiwi Islands, they founded with 45 individuals spread across the best habitat, designed for genetic diversity from the start. Those quolls aren't just surviving, they're a genetic reservoir that can seed recovery. Early action multiplies impact. Move animals while they're healthy and genetically robust, and they establish faster, breed sooner, and need less intensive management. That frees up time, money, and attention for other species and landscapes. Momentum attracts funding, success compounds, and the data are clear. Translocations started before populations fell below 100 individuals had a 73% higher success rate than those attempted after severe declines. Preemption beats triage every time. If you work in this space, here's a quick checklist you can run this week. Map the estimated time of arrival for key invasive threats. Calculate effective population size, not just headcount. Scan climate exposure across the range. If anyone is red, plan a large-scale move now. Waiting for post-crash proof is how we lose species. Theme 2. Build predator-free lifeboats at landscape scale. Then backcast to the wild. Create big, connected refuges, large fenced estates or carefully chosen islands, where survival and breeding can reset. Once populations thrive, use them to refound wild populations as threats are reduced in the original range. The key word is big. Size matters exponentially. A 1,000-hectare sanctuary isn't just twice as good as a 500-hectare one. It can be 5 or 10 times more effective. Large sanctuaries support full ecological processes, complex habitat mosaics, and life stage needs. They let prey species learn, disperse, and maintain healthier gene flow. You get a living system, not a holding pen. That scale is vital in a country where feral cats cover about 99.8% of the mainland and kill an estimated 377 million birds each year. For many small to medium mammals like bilbies, numbats, and mala, expansive predator-free landscapes aren't just helpful. They're often the only places where populations can rebuild quickly without relentless predation. Here's the subtle design choice successful programs make from day one. Plan for ecological overflow. Don't aim to hold a population. Aim to produce surplus individuals, animals you can move to create new populations or reinforce struggling ones. That means manage for maximum reproductive output, not maximum density. Be conservative about carrying capacity to avoid boom and bust. Build habitat heterogeneity inside the fence so animals can shift during drought or fire. Maintain ongoing disease surveillance so you're not exporting problems with animals. When that's in place, the results are transformative. The Australian Wildlife Conservancy and partners have shown this repeatedly. Take Mount Gibson Iron Sanctuary in Western Australia. Roughly 8,000 hectares, now a powerhouse for bilby recovery, producing more than 200 animals that established new populations across 3 states. That's the lifeboat model doing its job, building a thriving source population and then backcasting to the wild as feral predators are controlled and habitat is secured. A caution sign. Moving species isn't just about the target animal. If you don't model wider ecosystem effects, you can create new problems. The Tasmanian devil translocation to Maria Island is the standout example. Devils did well, but they became an unintended predator and little penguins were wiped out. That lesson reshaped island practice. Today, the best programs run rigorous multi-species impact assessments before release, modeling food webs, seasonal pulses, and vulnerable species, so we don't protect one icon at the expense of another. So how do these ideas come together? First, move early using clear triggers, genetics, invasion timelines, and range fragmentation. Second, go big on lifeboats. So you're not just saving a population, you're building a production engine for recovery. Third, treat lifeboats as temporary sanctuaries from which you replant the wild as threats are managed. That could look like synchronized feral cat control across a mainland landscape, followed by staged releases from your fenced source population. Or island populations that act as a genetic bank while you prepare predator-proof corridors and fire-smart mosaics back on the mainland. This approach matches Australia's reality. We can't wish away cane toads or wave a wand over feral cats, but we can stay ahead of their worst impacts by acting before populations crash and by giving species room to breathe, breed, and rebuild at the scale their lives demand. If you're leading a program, here's your takeaway. Don't wait for the cliff. Run the Go Big test. If effective population size is below a safe threshold, if an invasive front is within 3 years, or if your species is down to a handful of isolated sites, you already have permission to move. Build or partner into a large refuge, design it for surplus, and plan the route back to the wild from day one. Make it systematic. Genetic monitoring, threat mapping, habitat planning, and multi-species impact checks. If you're a funder or supporter, the message is just as clear. Early action is a force multiplier. Dollars invested before the crash create more animals faster, with lower long-term cost and higher odds of success. That's not just feel-good, it's good math. Australia's isolation gave us incredible species and precious few second chances. The programs that will define conservation success in 2025 and beyond treat time as the scarce commodity it is. Move early, go big, build lifeboats, backcast to the wild, And always look left and right across the food web before moving a single animal. If you want a step-by-step playbook, there's a comprehensive Australian conservation guide that lays out the process. But you can start now. Map your threats, check your genetics, measure range health, and act on the first red light you find. Waiting for perfect certainty has cost us too much already. The difference between losing and winning often comes down to moving before the collapse and giving species room to thrive at the scale their lives demand. That's the future of rewilding and translocation here, and it's a future we can choose starting today.